Spags, week 17 is upon us. Week 16 in the books. The season, it's winding down, my friend.
Is he saying in the books because of our pal Ian book debuting tonight, Monday Night Football? Pete already thriving in the pun world. We are going to talk about everything for week 16, recapping all the important fantasy information. We're also going to talk a little bit about our Christmases. I have some findings in the virtual reality world that I want to introduce to Pete. And also we are going to do Monday Night Football and Underdog playoff best ball draft. So much, Pete. So let's hit that intro. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Splash Play, the fantasy football podcast for every game under the sun. And once again, I am Chris Spags, joined by your friend of mine, Peter Overzet. Pete, how was your Christmas? Let's start there.
Christmas was good. I love that it fell on Friday and Saturday, which is generally my chill part of the week, as you know, for fantasy football content. So it was nice to be able to take some time off and enjoy that. Got to hang out with the in-laws, and I have a new nephew. He's like 3 months old now, so that kind of is the fun new addition to our family get together. So yeah, enjoyed some family time.
Did he have that good new baby smell? I hear that's a thing that my girlfriend in particular was looking forward to of our baby in March.
You know what? It's funny because I have awful sense of smell. I just am like always permanently congested. So I don't pick up on the finer things in life. Sometimes that's to my benefit. But to answer your question, no, I didn't notice any nice new baby smells.
That's one of the vibes out there. That and new car smells, I hear, are the two big ones. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to sniffing some babies coming up in the not too distant future. And if you're around any babies, and assuming you're safe and not passing germs to them, feel free to sniff away and report back to us here at Splash Play. Let's get the plugs out of the way. First of all, go to footballoutsiders.com/subscribe. They're still doing the deal on there, 99 cents a week for a year package on the site. You're getting DVOA, defense first receiver, lots of great stats, in addition to premium articles and content, and a lot more to come down the stretch, even in the offseason. So go footballoutsiders.com/subscribe, and 99 cents a week on there. And also make sure you are liking this video, subscribe to the Pete's channel, and subscribe to the Splash Play channel. Check it all out. And here's, I'm going to segue over, Pete, because we're going to get into our week 16 recap. There's a lot to talk about there. But I did get an Oculus headset from my lovely girlfriend's family, my soon-to-be in-laws. Very generous with gifts. Also got me this 24-inch monitor back here. Could have gotten a little bigger, which I didn't realize. Should have probably measured and known for sure. But either way, that's part of the background now. So shout out to them for improving my studio bit by bit. But Pete, have you played along at all? I know you're into the NFT world, and I feel like the NFT/metaverse world kind of goes hand in hand in some ways. Have you dabbled at all in virtual reality?
No, and this is embarrassing because I literally have an Oculus up here that I've never, I opened it up just to look at it, but I have not set it up. I have not tried it. Am I missing out?
So it is, I would say, mind-blowing. I think I got the Quest 2, so that's, I think, a little bit less power than the Rift 2 or whatever that is. But if you hook it up, if you have like a streaming PC like I have, you can basically do the same things. Like play the Rick and Morty game, which I spent entirely too much doing yesterday. But basically, like, even YouTube is in VR, and you end up just watching the stuff that you would never watch normally. Like I was watching some YouTube trick shot channel just because they had a VR video, so you could see like the 180 view all around you. And it's just so immersive in a way that I think that there's an angle, and I shouldn't give this away, I guess, on the air, because I'm going to say it in a meeting too. Like if you do the first like sports betting fantasy VR show, like that's just an angle that'll get you an audience because people are dying for any sort of content or engagement on there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine Nana Pete just getting to see 3D asses, in the metaverse. It sounds lovely. Were you watching all these incredibly stoned, or were you doing this sober?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I think it's generally a rolling hill for me throughout any sort of time off, or maybe in life overall. But it's like, I was going through some of the stuff and just like definitely going in awe of like the YouTube 4K VR stuff of just, you go to see the pyramids basically. And it's like being in the pyramids, including you could hear people harassing the guy with the camera, trying to sell him some souvenirs and whatever. But also like you could go into this thing called Horizon Venues, where it has like live shows. I think tomorrow it has the Clippers Celtics game on there. And like basically like it'll be like you're sitting courtside. There's also people walking around there. So like real people in their headsets with their avatars, and they're interacting. And basically it's just becomes like a chat room of people hanging out, which I just had myself on mute. I was just observing and trying to figure out the selfie stick in there. But it's really fucking trippy in a way that I feel like it's going to be very important for our lives in the next 5 years, especially based on the amount of 13-year-olds I was coming across.
Yeah. I'm like, I understand people hate the kind of metaverse buzzword now once Facebook co-opted it, and it just seems uncool, and people still have like flying cars in their head when they think of it. But the step to getting to what you just described is very, very close. And part of it is like truly exciting to me. Like I still think about, stuff I do with my college buddies where, we have like a Discord chat and, occasionally we'll do like a poker thing, but even being able to just do those things like in a more VR dimension where you could talk and you could like, oh, what do we want to bet on? Pull up something there, a sports book thing. As of like right now, it's just a shared screen, but you can see the ways where it would truly feel like hanging out with people if all this stuff gets fine tuned. And it does seem like we're quickly headed there. And yeah, I'm excited about it. I think there's a lot of potential for it.
It's interesting, and it's honestly not that expensive to get a 3D camera. I was looking it up again, just looking for an angle here to force people to watch our content in the hopes that, they'll then like us. That's really the main thing. You spend time with us. I think you'll enjoy the show. And in Iceman, we have to read the chat too. Yesterday, while I was listening to Tilt Space, my wife heard Pete's voice and said, "Is that the granny that always talks about butts?" Pete, you've had a lot of lanes over the last few years between your TikToking and the Tilt Space and the cash game stuff. But being the nanny who talks about butts to people who don't watch your content seems like a whole new one.
Yeah, the most concerning thing to me about this comment is just that my character work outs me. I would have hoped my, grandma voice would be just so different and unique compared to mine, but I guess it's just that obvious.
Yeah, I guess the connection is there. I mean, you are related after all, so that's probably why the Nana Pete and actual Pete. Yeah,
that's true. But shout out to your wife for suffering through having to listen to this show on whatever speakers you have it on. Get yourself some headphones. Do it for her.
So hit that like button if you can. That way, Pete will introduce even more characters, perhaps in character underdog drafts in the offseason. We'll find out how that goes for us. Something to tease there. Another thing to tease there. Looks like on Thursday, Pete and I are going to strap ourselves in and do a little holiday special, a little New Year's special, Pete, which I feel like we could promote now, even though we've discussed none of the finer points besides me saying it'd be fun if we did a drunk show. And I think that's what we're going to do. We'll do our ride or die picks. We'll do, I guess we'll have Nana Pete also putting a few back, and maybe some special guests if we can round anybody up who wants to do a show on the day before New Year's Eve. But Pete, I think drunk shows for the holidays. I was listening to the Figure 4 Wrestling podcast. It does like a weekly or a yearly one, rather. It'd be weekly if it were drunk. That'd be a bit of a problem. But yearly one where they get like blacked out and they did a 2-hour show. I don't think we need to go that far, but I do think people enjoy us just going after it. Maybe ride or die picks of the Power Hour. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not going to make promises on how drunk I'm going to be. I do have to pace myself for actual New Year's and
no Thursday
and
night
all
football
of that.
though, so no cram.
I know that is the nice thing, no cram. But yes, we will. Spags and I will get together and we will figure out the exact time and hopefully some guests. And yeah, so we'll take Friday off and we'll put our heart and soul into a Thursday show.
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed that nobody gets rolled out and ruins the ride or die picks or the other segments on here, which I guess we'll have to talk about in a bit. But let's get into our snap takes from week 16. And I think the big one we have to start with, Sunday Night Football was pretty big, but Joe Burrow throwing for 525 yards. I know, Pete, this is a big part of what you were talking about on your recap show on the channel right before a couple hours ago. But 37-46 day, 4 touchdowns, 41-21 win over Baltimore. T. Higgins also leads the way with 12 catches for 194 yards and 2 TDs on 13 targets. And somehow Joe Mixon also gets 18 rushes for 65 yards and a rushing TD, also 6 catches for 70 yards, on 6 targets and a touchdown there. I was surprised to see Joe Mixon get there, but this was just an onslaught in the way that I kind of worried Joe Burrow wasn't going to have after that knee issue. He started this year kind of slow. He's not running as much as he did last year, which is going to be for the best, I guess, for T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon, whoever else they're putting out there. But what did you think of this one live? I know it had some DFS ramifications for you, but to me, these are literal video game numbers, including on the other side that we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, absolutely absurd performance. It's been fun to watch T. Higgins' progression. You know, he was very hyped up coming into the season. These second-year wide receivers, you know, who flash as rookies, they're very exciting. Higgins ended up being like a tough riddle this offseason with how would he coexist with Jamar Chase, who was an even better prospect on paper than he was. And the correct answer ended up just being both of them were great. And it's kind of funny because it was like Jamar Chase had the insanely hot first start to the season, and now T. Higgins is really coming along late. And so, yeah, it was sick to see some of those catches mossing, you know, two of the Ravens defenders. And then, yeah, Joe Burrow's 525 passing yards yesterday. I had some T. Higgins, but I did not have the Joe Burrow stacks, and that meant no money for me.
And I think you're seeing the potential be lived up to. A lot of people I know in the offseason were talking about the hopes for this triumvirate of receivers along with Joe Burrow. And I just don't think the upside was there week to week. But seeing it now as maybe they're revving up into playoff mode a little bit more, I'd be terrified if I were playing them in the playoffs. And I think they could be an interesting team, Pete, for the playoff best ball drafts as well.
Yeah. I haven't gone through and looked at all of the rosters yet, but you have to imagine a ton of T. Higgins in Burrow stacks, you know, propelling people. And then it's just what's so interesting about the way those advancements work in the Underdog playoffs is just you're always having to thread that needle, right? Because it's like if the Joe Burrow stack gets you there, but then next week, say the Chiefs defense, who's been playing pretty strong, just like keeps them in check, well, then you're out, you know? So it's just like, sometimes you need those massive weeks to get you there. And then you're just having to thread the needle on all these top performances.
And the Bengals currently the 3 seed in the playoff hunt for the actual playoffs as well. So it could be decent payoff here for Joe Burrow potentially coming up. And definitely a QB can get hot. I want to give the shout out there to Josh Johnson on the other side, 28 for 40, 304 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Also ran 5 times for 10 yards, and also kept Mark Andrews going in a way that I thought if Lamar was going to come back, he'd start to spread the ball around a bit more. Mark Andrews, though, continues to thrive with the backup tight ends, 8 for 125 on 10 targets, also gets a touchdown. And then James Proche, also 7 catches for 76-yard leads to receivers on 8 targets. But I feel like Josh Johnson, Pete, an XFL alum, a guy that's continued to perform fantasy-wise whenever he's gotten an opportunity for the not football team back when he was on Washington, for the Jets at one point this year. And I feel like guys like this, like I love to see him step in and be good. It sort of makes you question, I guess, how good Tyler Huntley really is. But just seeing Josh Johnson be out there doing this, like an amazing performance by him, literally coming off the assembly line, coming off of the unemployment line, basically.
I absolutely love the handle name / comment combo. So we have Ravens are a pure QB system. And then we also have Huntley for MVP, which these things would seem to be in opposition of each other here. But I think it is, speaks to how well the Ravens have structured kind of their QB room. And you see a lot of these teams when, hey, the backup quarterback's coming in. All right, we're removing 3/4 of the playbook. We're going super conservative. We don't trust them to execute the offense. And the Ravens are like, no, you're just going to do what we do, which is a lot of read options and taking shots down the field and keeping the tempo up. So the fact that they let these quarterbacks kind of just run the same plays that Lamar Jackson was doing, I think it's smart. And basically all of the successful quarterbacks that we've seen that are backups that come in, it's because they're willing to be aggressive. I remember Heineke last year in the playoffs there for Washington coming in, and he was super aggressive. And that's kind of what made him, interesting as a quarterback. So I think it's sharp on the Ravens' part. And it's probably somewhere in between Huntley and Josh Johnson being above average backup quarterbacks, but then also the Ravens getting the most out of them.
And the offense, too, I think, getting the archetypes, certainly an important part. Huntley for MVP following up here saying, yes, their system, only one type of QBs for every QB. I think that makes sense. I mean, that's what you should be building around. And Lamar is clearly the highest ceiling version of it, probably the highest floor version of it. But that doesn't mean these guys can't step in and produce for fantasy. And, the team certainly didn't play that well. But I think I don't put that blame at all on Josh Johnson, Pete. I feel like that wasn't a garbage time game. Like, they just got smoked by Joe Burrow. It's not his fault they lost by almost 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. I will say the Ravens secondary is just absolutely awful. And now they have this is all fresh in my head because I just recorded the week 17 first look. Now they have the Rams. And so just thinking about Cooper Kupp, Odell, and Van Jefferson getting loose in that secondary should be a pretty good fantasy bonanza for Matt Stafford.
Yeah, not their fault either. A lot of injuries there because I know I'm sure Huntley for MVP will defend the secondary, but yeah, they are so banged up and they're doing the best they can to cobble it together. But that's what's going to happen when you're again signing guys off the street for cornerback and quarterback, two of the most important positions out there. Dallas hangs 56 on Washington with a 56-14 win on Sunday Night Football, largely driven by 2 defensive TDs, but they also got 4 passing TDs from Dak Prescott. But the question I'm going to ask you, Pete, week to week, we've been seeing this happen. CeeDee Lamb snaps have been all over the place. Routes run have been down a bit. Yesterday, garbage time allows Malik Taylor to pull ahead of him. But is Dalton Schultz the most consistent Cowboys receiver? Because he's playing all the snaps at tight end for the most part, besides 10 to 15 that go to whatever second string tight end is available in a given week. And I feel like out of all the guys, I don't know that I want to pay a premium price tag for him, but at a reasonable salary, I feel like he's the one you could trust. Whereas you'll have your Gallup weeks, you'll have your Cooper weeks, you'll have your Lamb weeks, and those guys just really fluctuate in a way that I don't feel comfortable with.
Yeah, he has been consistent. I still think I'd take Lamb just as far as his floor ceiling combination, but it is definitely hurt. One of Gallup or Amari has been kind of the odd man out each week just because Schultz is commanding so many targets. I think he had 8 targets again last night and just a big part of that offense. I'm definitely curious to see how things shake out this week against the Cardinals. Had circled that game way back this summer, looking at week 16 matchups there in the dome with those 2 high-powered offenses. Michael Gallup's only 4,800 this week. So, maybe everyone swings over to Schultz after his big game and now Gallup is next man up. But yeah, it's great for Schultz, but definitely makes it tougher for fantasy to know which one of those wide receivers to trust.
Yeah, and I would agree. The measuring stick of going against Arizona next week is going to be a pretty big one for Dallas because beating up on Washington, a lot of teams have done that recently. And Dallas have proven that they can put something together. They're certainly going to be a team to worry about in the playoffs, but I want to see them do it against somebody with a little more merit to them. On the Kansas City game, no Travis Kelce. He remains on the COVID list after Tyreek Hill tested his way back off, but Kansas City crushes Pittsburgh 36-10. Byard Bringle leads the way, 6 catches for 75 yards on 7 targets and 2 touchdowns. Pete talked about overlooking him a little bit in GPP lineups. I think that was the case for a lot of people across the industry, not knowing where to go with Travis Kelce out. A lot of Tyreek Hill, a lot of Noah Gray and Blake Bell ownership that floated around out there. But Pete, the big thing in the backfield seems like CEH with that shoulder/collarbone injury. Do you read into the fact that Derek Gore out-touched Darrell Williams, or at least the fact that he was meaningfully involved, even though the game, again, got away here, so that's going to lead to more Derek Gore time?
No, it seems like when they've used Derek Gore, it has been, way more in garbage time. What was it, a couple weeks ago when they crushed the Raiders and we saw a lot of Derek Gore? It is an interesting spot though with CEH potentially missing this week. I think I'm still most interested in Darrell Williams. He's had such a good pass catching role basically throughout, even when CH returned, and they've shown a willingness to give him the early down work as well. So yeah, I'm going to get pretty interested in Darrell Williams in this match. And I imagine the field will be pretty interested in him as well.
Anything with Pittsburgh on their side? I feel like at this point, and we're going to talk about another team coming up with the Giants that I think is in no play anybody zone, which is not an actual phrase to say out loud, but that's what I would tag it as, Pete. The clever branding, the no play anybody zone. But I think the Giants and Pittsburgh to me are just 2 teams that I like Deontay Johnson a lot. After he doesn't come through there, I just don't know how you could trust any of them. And you might talk about the Chiefs defense, I guess, being a reason that you might still play some Steelers down the home stretch of the season.
Yeah, I was so thankful when I was looking. There's only 2 games that aren't on a main slate this week, and one of them is Browns Steelers. And I was like, just knock yourself out. Like, I think they play Monday Night Football, and that's just such a wonderful game to not have to deal with. I don't want to deal with either of those teams. The Steelers are so depressing because they should have the weapons to be a very fun fantasy team, but Roethlisberger is just so beyond cooked right now that they're a pretty miserable watch.
At a certain point, feels like maybe it's Mason Rudolph time, and he hasn't looked terrible so far this year, including in the preseason. So just a tough team to trust right now unless Ben doesn't play. And Ben, I don't know, Ben doesn't seem like his heart's in it, or his body certainly is not in it. Some more games to get through. Houston upsets the Chargers 41-29, thanks largely to the man on the thumbnail back there. 22 carries, 149 yards, 2 rushing touchdown day for Rex Burkhead. Justin Jackson, as chalk, also goes off for 35 fantasy points, 11 carries, 64 yards, 2 TDs, along with 8 catches for 89 yards on 9 targets. And Pete, this win, I feel like the Chargers just continue to find ways to really hurt themselves on the home stretch of the season, but also just lose to teams sometimes that it feels like they should absolutely have put a beating on. And no Mike Williams, certainly no Austin Eckler, not great for them, but Houston winning, putting up that many points. Is this an aberration game? You made Rex Burkhead the thumbnail, so I don't know which way you're going to go with this one.
Um, yeah, it's more, I feel like the Chargers are the AFC version of the Seahawks. There's that tweet out there that says, the Seahawks have never played a normal game. And I feel like that's kind of like the Chargers too. There's just never a normal Chargers game. And we have seen the Texans play, pretty inspired football. Who was it that they beat in week 1? Oh yeah, they crushed the Jags in week 1 when everyone thought, they were going to be the worst team in football. So I like how they play aggressive. And yeah, I just had to throw Rex Burkhead on the thumbnail. I mean, him and Justin Jackson both pretty much had the exact same statistical performance yesterday. And one of them was 2.5% owned and the other was, 60% owned. So just wanted to show Rex Burkhead some love there carrying the rock for the Texans.
I know it's a big moment for the Burkhead family to get onto the splash play thumbnails, I'm sure. And I think this is one rule, Pete, that every week I put it in Fantasy Cruncher, it ends up being like this, where normally you want to have just one running back from a game on a main slate where there's 11, 10 games or whatever. And I put that rule in, and every week I put that rule in, like, because I don't remember to do it every week, or sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to do it this week. There's always 2 running backs in the same game that go off. And this one is like, I wouldn't think that you could have Justin Jackson and Burkhead both have tournament winning, tournament defining games like this. And I know you're a hand building guy. I honestly am thinking I might do, when you do your cash game week, I might do single entry week just to try to get some of the stink of the GPP season off of me. But I just feel like the 2 running backs in one game thing so infrequently it works out. But when it does, it's a situation like this.
Yeah, and I ended up pivoting like a lot of Justin Jackson to Rex Burkhead. And, I feel so smart until, then Justin Jackson just does the same thing. A lot of the winning lineups had both. Levitan finished second in the FanDuel Millie with a team that had both Jackson and Burkhead on it. And yeah, I think I agree with you in general. I don't feel too excited playing 2 running backs from the same game. And I can't even remember when would have been the last time I did it. But if there was a time to do it, it would be with 2 really cheap running backs who also catch passes. And those guys definitely check the box here.
I think the last time it didn't work out for me that I put the rule in was that week where the Browns running backs were hurt, and it was Dearness Johnson who went off going against Ramondre Stevenson, and that was the last time I did it. So anyway, point being, I'll if I remember to put the rule in, I'll certainly let everybody know that it's safe to play both running backs in the same game, because normally the game scripts don't work out that way. That's the logic behind it. Speaking of running backs that absolutely killed me this week, Pete, and I had some lineups that were destroyed completely by 1 fantasy point from James Robinson, who, the more important part, not my lineups, is that he tore his Achilles, going to be out for the year. Hopefully we'll get back in time for early next season, but that doesn't look great given the recovery timelines. 26-21 Jets win there, but a big workload for Dare Ogunbowale down the stretch of that one. 17 rushes for 57 yards, doesn't get a rushing touchdown. Also 2 catches for 15 yards on 4 targets. You saw 13 targets for Marvin Jones with Laviska Shenault. A late rule out for COVID, Pete. Great engagement tweet, though, to chirp you on that one. But the Jags, just an absolute mess. And the James Robinson injury, just a sad fate for a guy who I feel like just everything has been against him this year, including that hiring of Urban Meyer.
I thought about not replying to the tweet to not help your engagement numbers, because I knew how much you would relish that, but I decided to toss you a bone.
I appreciate a Christmas miracle, a treat for all.
I wanted you to get fattened up on that Christmas engagement.
I did, and I appreciate that, Pete. And I guess for you, I don't know what format Dare Ogunbowale would be a pickup in at this point, given I presume even the FFPCs you can't pick people up. But any thoughts on him? Because it does feel like the workload for the Jags with no Robinson and Carlos Hyde still, whatever he's doing, like it feels like Ogunbowale could actually be very important for DFS and maybe in general.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're now going to be 15-point road dogs at New England this week, and it's always like a tough line to thread where you're like, okay, yeah, he's going to be the pass catching back, but it could just be one of those days where the offense goes 3 and out, 16 times. So, and he's not like a guy like Michael Carter where you're at least like, oh, he's got some juice and some fresh legs to rip off some big plays as well. So I think it's a tight needle to thread with Dare, probably going to be too thin, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Tavon Austin fills in for the aforementioned Laviska Shenault, is on the COVID list. 6 catches, 68 yards, 7 targets. Probably not enough of a workload to trust him to go there, but he did look pretty solid. Michael Carter, I know you mentioned this on your previous stream, Pete, 16 rushes for 118 yards for the Jets. Braxton Berrios, also a guy I had a lot of because of no Jamison Crowder, still no Corey Davis, who's out the rest of the year. No Elijah Moore as well. But this spot for Berrios, really luck box with his return TD, only 5 catches for 37 yards and 23 fantasy points for Zach Wilson. I feel like the fact that he could get there without any receiver having an outlier day is probably a good sign, Pete. But the rest of the Giants, I think maybe the Michael Carter part is something to feel good about, especially if Tevin Coleman ends up missing some games down the stretch.
Well, did you see the Zach Wilson touchdown run?
Yeah, I mean, that was a crazy run. It doesn't happen very often, I would think, for Zach Wilson.
No, I mean, it was part of the thesis. I remember when Corain was like looking at him as a prospect, and he's like, this dude has a big arm and can run. And those are two pretty nice things for fantasy. So it was nice to finally see, what we were drafting him in the 17th round of best ball drafts for, which is ripping off, big runs like that. But yeah, I love Braxton Berrios. There was a couple guys in our Discord who were like, I didn't even know Braxton Berrios was that fast. I thought he was just a slow slot wide receiver. But yeah, Michael Carter one was interesting, just that he did so much work on the ground and not through the passing game. So the fact that he's efficient as a rusher, and then also we know it was just a few weeks back when he had that 14 target game. I'm pretty interested in him. And now I believe they play the Bucks this week, and he's only 5,100 on DraftKings. So I might be interested in a little Michael Carter.
Yeah, Michael Carter, I don't know the week 18 matchup for the Jets by any chance?
I do not.
Let's see, Jets week 18, because I feel like Michael Carter, it's hard to see it against the Bucks, given just the run defense is not as good as it's been historically, but still one. They play the Bills, but that game probably won't matter for the Bills. It wouldn't shock me, and I would maybe make this a ride or die pick if there were a way to do this for a futures bet. I feel like Michael Carter, there's going to be a game these last two where Tevin Coleman's out. I feel like Michael Carter's going to go for 200 yards. I don't know if it's like all-purpose yards, maybe is the way to couch that, but I feel like it's coming up.
All right. Calling your shot. There you have it.
Yeah. And the way that doesn't matter, I'm out of ride or die picks. Pete beat me again there, though. We did have 1-0, Pete, because I did have Tyler Kroft outscoring Laviska Shenault by 2.5 points. He did do that. So if we're going by the letter of the law here, that should be a 10-pointer.
No, you actually just said it. You said Tavon Austin was filling in for that.
Yeah,
so
but we didn't change the ride or die picks because I figured there was a bunch of COVID ones. I didn't even tweet them. I'm not even tweeting them out at this point because it was too much.
I'll toss you a little scrap. Also, you never accepted my head-to-head invitation for lowball.
Oh, I didn't get it.
I sent you the head-to-head invite.
I was wondering. I thought you just forgot it, and I was like, I'm not going to bother you on Christmas weekend.
No, I thought you just forgot about it. I was like, I'm not going to bother you on Christmas weekend.
Well, classic us. Communication, Pete, very important in relationships, but that's my bad. I was like, oh, Pete's probably got enough going on. He's got to still do streams. Like, I'm not gonna bitch him about this.
Yeah, I guess we will not know how those teams did because the contest didn't fill. I'm looking through my old lineups to see if it even show up here.
I did have Darnold at QB. I think he had 8 fantasy points, so that wasn't too bad. But yeah, I don't know.
Who did I have at QB?
Did you have Jake Fromm? You might have Jake Fromm.
Yeah, it didn't even save my lineup in my history. So
I think if you don't answer it, it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll never know, but I'm going to assume I won. I've been running hot and low ball, the one thing that doesn't fucking matter. But if you'll give me the 10 points for Ride or Dies, Pete, that'll at least give me a chance to catch you in the last few weeks. Wink. That's probably an unlikely chance, I would think, at this point.
Fine. I'll allow it.
Yay! All right, so I got 3 10-pointers this week. Nick Chubb, 2xing AJ Dillon's points. T. Higgins in the winning Millie Maker lineup. You also got Jamar Chase, correct, as your 10-pointer in the Millie Maker winning lineup. So we have, in fact, been really good at wide receiver Millie Maker lineup picks. Those are correct on Ride or Dies. And then you also had 2 of the top 5 scores in the Chargers-Texans. Our Texans, that was a stupid bet for me to give 10 points on, but we were in the Christmas spirit. Things were flowing freely.
You should have given me the other one that I actually wanted initially. You backed me into that one.
I know that's the issue is when I really fuck myself over like that one. But Pete is now up, I think, roughly 70 points, maybe 80, depending on what the calculations are there. So it's not great, but I do think there's still a chance for me to catch you in the last 2 weeks. So I'll take that. Let's burn through these other recap items. Sony Michel, 27 carries, 131 yards and a TD. Darrell Henderson, 1 rush for 17 yards and a 30-23 win with Minnesota. I think, Pete, this could change from the playoffs. I think if we do that underdog playoff best ball draft later, I feel like you could still take Darrell Henderson and feel okay about it. But I think for the rest of the season, like Sony Michel seems like he's RB1 now because of poor Darrell Henderson getting Wally Pipp while having COVID.
Yeah, and not to mention Darrell Henderson also left the game yesterday with a knee injury. So, I mean, Sony Michel was already starting to outplay him. Then you factor in the knee stuff, all this positive momentum. And yeah, I think Sony Michel is now kind of taken over this backfield.
Adam Thielen also hurt again with KJ Osborne getting a pretty comparable workload. Ends up with 5 catches, 68 yards, and a TD on 7 targets. I think you're now fully on board with KJ Osborne, right? Like I think the only way he doesn't get there is if you see a Dalvin Madison monster day. Like it's Dalvin and Madison, and I guess Justin Jefferson having monster days. But that to me, that happening that often, at least how KJ Osborne could fail. And I just think he's going to get enough routes and get enough that Thielen role that he's a guy in DFS. And if you somehow in a season long league and you're still going, I feel like he's a very viable play to me.
Yeah, I mean, they were already a condensed offense, and then if you remove Thielen, it really gets condensed. So yeah, I like the Osborne call.
And then other news around the league, Philly wins 34-10. No Giants score over 10 fantasy points. Miles Sanders broke his hand, though I guess they're going to try to make him play through it or see if he can.
No, I just saw a tweet that he is officially out for this week.
Okay, so that's good. The initial news item was like, they're going to test his hand and see if he can still play around it. And I guess they figured out that you don't want to do that fast. Pete, we've been here before, though, with Miles Sanders. So do you have any thoughts about Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, or Kenneth Gainwell? Who's going to benefit the most with Miles Sanders out yet again?
I mean, just even looking at the touch splits after Sanders left, it does look pretty even between Howard and Boston Scott. I always kind of prefer Boston Scott just because he seems like he has a little juice. And he scored that touchdown too, so they are willing to use him in the red zone. So, yeah, I think I might have a little interest in Boston Scott here.
Yeah, I think Kenneth Gainwell, hard to trust him getting back into the mix, even though he started so well for them. And Jordan Howard does get the ball per snap more than pretty much anybody, as we talked about a lot throughout the year. So I think both guys are tournament plays if Philly lines up in the right situation. Other news around the league, Antonio Brown, 10 for 101, the Bucs 32-6 win. Ronald Jones gets 20 carries. Josh Allen goes for 314 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, while Damian Harris also goes for 18 for 103 and 3 touchdowns. If one of Harris or Ramondre Stevenson is out, just play that running back seems to be the lesson. And Shee Smith ends up as the top Panthers receiver for the week. Anything of these items or anything else out there, Pete, over all these games that we haven't talked since? Anything's in interest of you or to you that you want to bring to the people?
No, I feel like we mentioned pretty much everything. I do think Ramondre will be in play if he comes back off the COVID list, just because they're 2 touchdown favorites against the Jags. I could see both him and Harris having good games. But yeah, we're going to be monitoring some of the injury stuff, but we hit on all of those. I think Henderson, CEH, and Miles Sanders. So I think we did it, Spags. We're the most comprehensive Week 16 recap show in the biz.
I mean, honestly, though, like Week 16, because I think there's money to be made. Like we talk a lot, really across the industry, a lot of people do. Like the first 3 weeks of the NFL season, people don't have great data, so they're kind of going off instincts, and you could have a little bit of an edge. I do feel like this year, especially with the COVID, like if you're still paying close attention for Week 17, Week 18, like I think there's an opportunity to make money, and I'm sure you'll see it firsthand. And I don't find it fully, believable that you're not only going to play cash games in Week 18, because I think this is a year where you could make you could win the SPY in Week 18.
No, that is not a bit. I am literally only playing cash games Week 18. I only played cash games Week 17. This is an awesome GPP week in Week 17. I will return for the playoffs. We're going to have some nice wild card and divisional round slates, but Week 18 is for the cash game grinders, Spags.
All right, if you say so. I just feel like Week 18 is going to look like a lot like Week 14, Week 13, Week 12 this year. It doesn't have the same thesis of the reason for the content as it did in previous seasons.
Are you kidding? Oh, it definitely will. Like, there's going to be like 4 teams resting starters. Half the league will be out with COVID. I mean, this is a cash game grinder's dream.
All right, fair enough, Pete. But let's go. And guys, hit the like button if you're watching live or after the fact. We appreciate that a bunch. But Pete, it is in fact time to welcome some people to the family. So you ready to do that? Welcome to the family, CD. Chepale, what balls on this guy, Amaro?
Shit, he's gonna take an eternal dirt nap any one of these days. Get out of here with this shit.
Lauren the Ferrari, back in my garage. Welcome to family.
I'm gonna welcome you to the family. Get in here, get in here.
Great time of year to be Italiano, Pete. Christmas, families getting together, sharing some nice red sauce. That's what we did over the holidays. How are you feeling back, Petey Overs?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Got the family together. We did a feast of the 7 fishes, all that stuff. It's a big Italian tradition. If you didn't know, I actually have an intimate knowledge of it and not just saying it because it's a reference I thought would be very topical.
Did you actually know that one offhand, or were you doing research for this bit in a way that would be completely unexpected?
No, I know about it. I got some friends that are Italian, and this is what they do. I'm like, why are you eating fishes for Christmas? And they said it's a whole feast, an Italian thing. And I said, okay, I'll file that away in my memory and use it on a show sometime.
That's honestly a level of Italian even more than me, the actor who plays the actor giving you welcome to the family Fitz does. But it's a very Sicilian thing to do, and I do have family who does that. But who the fuck wants to eat some salty ass fish on Christmas? That's not what I want, Pete.
No. I want the gabagool, I want the majibu, and I want the bajia. I don't want the fishes.
That is correct here, but it's time to welcome some people to the family as we do every week here on Splash Play. And just because the season's nearing an end doesn't mean we don't got some guys to bring it to the mix and give some hugs and kisses, but only masculine kisses as always. Pete, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first? I do have 2 groupings today to give to you.
2 groupings, my goodness. Save some for the rest of the family. Spags hogging the dishes over there. Come on, dude. Leave a little for the rest of us, but go ahead, knock yourself out.
I'll take the first one here. These are guys that are co-hosts on the show. P and Spags already talked. I forgot, are we ourselves or are we just different guys entirely?
It's kind of an ever blurring world, and you kind of just have to figure it out in the moment.
It's actually true. I often use this accent around the house now for one-liners here and there, and I think my girlfriend has taken some less than desirable approaches and looks towards me during those scenes.
Yeah, when you were telling me that this is your new thing, you're like, yo, dude, when I enter the metaverse, I can become this Italian stallion. It's incredible.
Just a big jacked goon is what I'd like to be. And the guy that I wouldn't mind looking like would be the 2 guys I'm going to welcome to the family at once. Going to take one arm for one guy, one arm for the other guy. Josh Johnson needs to be in the mix. He needs to be in the family, first of all. But I'm also going to take him and Joe Burrow in one swoop. I'm going to scoop them all in like some sort of carnival game because they basically played Madden, Pete. They had 830 combined passing yards. Almost is like a little too much going on, like all the food on Christmas Eve. But I got to say, I'm in that mood. I'm picking all day, and I'd love to keep picking at passing yards and TDs with these Josh Johnsons and Joe Burrows.
All right, dude. Well, 2 can play that game. You want to bundle these guys up from out in the cold and bring them in and sit them down at our family? Then I'm going to do it with Justin Jackson and Rex Burkhead, okay? These dudes combined for 66 points in the game. All right, same game. I mean, you can't play 2 running backs from the same game in DFS. Am I right? But look at these guys. These are trailblazers. They're trendsetters. Sexy Rex Burkhead. I mean, look at this guy. I'd like to put a meatball on his head and lick it right off of him. And I'd like to tell Justin Jackson that I want to give him a big kiss. And then he goes, well, why aren't you going to do the meatball on my head? And I'm like, well, you have more hair than Rex Burkhead, but come here, I'll put a meatball on your head too. And then he goes, you got marinara sauce all in my hair. And I'm like, well, you wanted me to put a meatball on your head.
But I hate when they have those complaints when requesting a meatball on the head. And I suppose the question I would ask when eating a meatball off of one man's head would be, is it like a Tootsie Pop scenario where we're just licking it until the meat slowly starts to degrade?
Oh, my mom used to give me those all the time. Maria, she would just get the lollipop and she just puts the meatball right on it and us kids would lick them on the stoop. It's how I grew up.
A classic Italian tradition, of course. And I'm going to welcome a guy. I don't know if I'm going to let him lick a meatball off my head, but we could share one like Lady and the Tramp. Braxton Berrios, and you kind of hinted at it, Pete. We're normally out there on the interwebs, across the internet, across the sports blogs historically as well. They love a scrappy white wide receiver, and he got Braxton Berrios sauntering about. And I don't know if you got a photo of Braxton Berrios you could pull up, Pete. If you have one, just saved on your phone in your camera roll. But
I always have a photo of this man on my desktop. I mean, who doesn't have one of these just right on the trigger here at any given time?
Now, I don't know if he's Italiano. I don't know what Barrios is. It could be Italian. He could be some sort of light-skinned Latino gentleman, whatever the case may be. He needs to be welcomed to the family by everybody. I don't know what happened where we don't go nuts for a guy like this running a 4.3 40 and getting touchdowns. But Braxton Barrios, come on, welcome to the family. He looks like he might be my future son.
Dude, the reason I know this dude is Italian because there's only one ethnicity that would wear a chain like this underneath their jersey on picture day, and that's the Italians. You know that there's like a Mother Mary little thing on the end of it, a pennant of his mother or something like that. I mean, this is an Italian if I've ever seen one.
Braxton Berrios, just like Mama used to make, a fine Italian, upstanding boy. We're claiming him as our own, Pete. You got anybody else you want to welcome to the family?
Yeah. I'd like to welcome this little pint size. While we're doing the diminutive players, how about this Isaiah McKenzie on the Bills? I mean, my God, this dude, 11 receptions, 125 yards. I think Cole Beasley got ran out of the country because he doesn't believe in COVID. So it's nice to see this Isaiah McKenzie, this cute little guy. I'd like to just put him in a high chair at the table and just cut his little spaghetti into little pieces and give him a little bite at a time so he doesn't choke on it. The guy's so cute. Welcome to the family, McKenzie.
He's like those little mozzarella balls, you know, the round ones that have a little bit of like sprinkle of some sort of seasoning on them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely know. Yeah, I got that.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, of course. But this is what he's like. He's like, you sometimes get those big slabs of mozzarella, but then you get those little pop of a mozzarella ball, and it's like, oh, that's so perfect. That's Isaiah McKenzie for you. Also, somehow make a Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, nobody gives this man shit, but what is he doing? He can't take nothing when there's no Cole Beasleys, no Gabriel Davises. It's crazy, Pete.
What do you want to do? You're gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. This guy scored 21.5 DraftKings points for you. He dropped a touchdown, sure, but what do you want from this guy? You want the world, okay? How about you ask for the moon and maybe you'll land among the stars?
I will ask for the moon. I want a slate breaker out there. Last year, you used to break all kinds of slates. Sometimes in our community, we like to break legs. And, you know, once you stop doing that, they don't respect you the same way, Pete. And that's what I want out of my boy Stephon. I want him to come back into the family, break some slates for me.
That also reminds me of one of my favorite songs. When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's Isaiah McKenzie. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's Stephon Diggs.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
No, okay. On that note, I guess let's hit the outro and do some other bits. Welcome to the family, CD. Chepale, what balls on this guy, Amaro?
Shit, he's gonna take an eternal dirt nap any one of these days. Get out of here with this shit.
Lauren the Ferrari back in my garage. Welcome to the family.
We're gonna welcome you to the family. Get in here. Get in.
I bet the waving bit really pops in VR, is what I think. On YouTube VR. Also, that bit was so good, Pete, that Nick Bird remembered he had to update his payment info and get his membership tenure going again.
That's the thing. I mean, anytime I see YouTube membership slipping, I do just have to slide into some kind of character to win the people back over.
I do think, honestly, like top to bottom, and it's sad because it's, you know, the end of the season, it's the holidays. I think that was one of our better welcome to the family. So really hit our beats, got out right when we had to.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, we're getting better at hitting the eject button on a bit before it has diminishing returns.
We get better every time. By 2022, we're going to be killing it. That much, I promise. But Pete, I guess let's do some Monday Night Football ride or die picks for Dolphins Sade side. We could do a quick lineup build, I guess, and still have time to do a best ball draft, or we could just do a best ball draft. That might be more logical.
Yeah, let's do our captain pick, and then we can do a draft.
All right, so of course, Monday Night Football going to be marked by the debut of Ian Book, and as Pete tweeted, all sorts of puns could be going abound if he launched himself onto the national stage in a big way. And Pete, I will give you the preamble before we get into the ride or die picks themselves. Ian Book ran a lot in college. Like, he ran the ball like 10 times a game in college, and that makes me think he is a play. I wish he were a little bit cheaper, but I get why he's going to be so chalky in showdowns, and I'm curious to see what Run the Sims has to say, but I think he's a guy that's going to end up in a winning lineup quite a bit.
Yeah. And there was some stats too. I saw 1 week season had a tweet threw 16 passes and rushed 0 times in his only preseason action versus Baltimore, but he averaged about 500 rush yards in his last 2 seasons at Notre Dame. And then there was Nick Vinette had a quote on Ian Book here for the Saints. He goes, but with Ian, he's an unbelievable athlete, unbelievable quarterback. If you guys just saw the things that he would do on scout team against our defense, sometimes you just sit back like, oh my God, how did he pull that off? I would say he's just as mobile as Taysom is. He's a dual threat. He can run around. He'll get in there and get some yards scrambling. So that's the kind of quote that gets you excited to play Ian Book in Showdown.
Yeah, and again, it's a third string QB. They did try to talk Phillip Rivers, Andrew Brees out of retirement for this one, so he must not be that great across the board. But I have to say, I'm really intrigued here, Pete, and I am a man who is intrigued by backup QBs. But that quote you just read out loud, the rushing numbers, the fact that maybe Sean Payton can just game plan enough for him that he's useful. This is the most intriguing Monday Night Football could be, and it's entirely because of a third string quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, the smart money is still on this game being like a 9-6 game where the defenses are in the optimal lineup, but who knows? Maybe Ian Book, will surprise us.
Yeah, 37-point line here as Miami gets 20 implied points. New Orleans gets 17 implied points, but the books just haven't caught up with the bookman himself, Ian Book. Pete, I think, I would let you go first, but we have to give our ride or die picks, and I'm just now swept up entirely in this situation. And I'm going to leave this another better play available for you and Alvin Kamara. I just want to be on the right side of the history books with Ian Book as my showdown winning captain.
Oh, man. I wish this segment had a storybook ending, but it is not. I'm going to go with, looking at the Sims, it does seem like the top three most frequented captains are Tua, Kamara, and Waddle. They all seem pretty even. So the fact that Spags is taking a guy who's not in the top three makes me feel good. So I'll take Tua as my captain for tonight.
I thought you were going to go Alvin Kamara, but I guess the projections probably do come down a little bit because of the rushing that Ian Book could have. And Kamara actually just doesn't project fantastically for some reason.
Yeah, and he's expensive.
Yeah.
He's 2,000 more than even Tua. So yeah, and you never know Kamara how his role will translate with a new QB.
Yeah, I think he's going to get fed still. I'm hoping, but that's a decision that you can make if you do want to go Ian Book's way a little bit more. His rushing should theoretically take away some checkdowns for Kamara that could be normally valuable there. But let's do that underdog playoff best ball draft. And I think my hunch is you're going to see more from us doing things on Splash Play with Underdog, perhaps as much as Pete does on his channel in the new year. Wink. I don't know. But let's do an underdog playoff best ball draft for free, Pete. We're not getting paid by them yet, but one day. Where you are.
This draft is actually going to cost me money to do. Actually, we're going to do, let's see. We'll do a $5 mitten. I can't afford the $25 ones on this show.
No, that's tough, but fair. I would say that I think we're going to do a great job and we're going to get you into the finals, just like Eric Bimeford did. I watched your whole stream right before the show in real life, not in VR. If it were VR, it would have been too much.
Yeah. The one team I got through is a team that Eric and I drafted together on stream this summer, and it's I think it's going to be pretty live because it's super unique based on what most people getting through have. So we will see. It should be fun.
Eric Bimeford, very sharp. Check out his work as well. Spike Week is what his show. I think that's affiliated with Roto Grinders, right?
Yeah. Yep. Launched Spike Week under the RG umbrella. Another influencer 101, Spags.
Oh yeah, there you go. So that's an interesting one. Where do we want to go? Because I feel like you need to guide a little more because I'm still your strategy. I feel like you're much sharper on at this point of the best ball.
I do think it's Cup or Adams. I mean, I do think Adams is the dominant play just because they're the favorites to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC. He can just put up massive numbers. Wide
They're also
receiver.
Gonna have that bye though, like almost for sure.
Right, which you can definitely lean. Or work around that buy. But yeah, and there's some other cheap Packers to fill out around them. So yeah, I think I'm on Team Adams.
Okay, I think go his way then. I support that.
And then
go ahead.
No. It's basically too like you can still kind of do whatever with your second and third pick, and then from there, we'll probably kind of know what our construction is going to be after that.
Okay. Yeah. And I think I like hearing your logic for these because I haven't delved too much into them yet. As I said, I'm going to try to hold as long as I can. Hope the tournament doesn't fill so I can maybe get a little bit more of an idea of who's actually going to be playing and who's not. But I do think the logic for Adams, like, I get it. I just feel like I don't want to lose that 1 week, but that might be me being a bit of a noob for best ball, playoff best ball, especially.
Well, I mean, there's two goals, right? Or two kind of things that you're that are in direct opposition of each other that you're trying to do, which is you're trying to build the best possible lineup for the Super Bowl. And then you're also trying to advance outside of the wild card round. And those things are not the same thing. So you're trying to thread the needle with it. So as long as like every one of your picks is either helping you build a Super Bowl lineup or helping you get out of the wild card round, I think you're doing fine. So obviously the Adams pick is helping us win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and certainly volume wise, like I have no issue with it on that front, but I think it's interesting to hear you explain. And you're doing that stream with Buy 'em for tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we're gonna talk through some more of this in the weeds strategy. So yeah, and I will admit I'm definitely starting to get more comfortable with these, but there's so much changing each week. Like the Bengals winning yesterday, their odds went from like 34% on 538. They're up to 79% now to make the playoffs. So you're not going to get the deals on Jamar Chase, Higgins, and Mixon that you were getting even before yesterday. So now it's like looking at some of these other fringe teams, maybe it swings back to the Ravens or to a team like even the Saints, who you could get really cheap that still have, a 50% chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And yeah, people saying, Eric, in the chat, this draft so far is weird. I'm a little perplexed by the Derrick Henry pick. I feel like that was one that you seem to be not so bullish on taking too early. And that's crazy he went that high.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the Derrick Henry thought, but not that at that price. So now we want to make a
the Buck
decision.
stack is there.
It is. I know. I think the Buck stack is a little harder. So my first thing is I do think we should just pair Adams with Aaron Jones.
Okay.
But then I think we should probably look to an AFC position.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I don't like Austin Eckler at this point just because the Chargers. I feel like they could go either way, but I think they're going to blow it based on what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, and the Chargers win probability dropped. They're down to 36% here, so that is a tougher sell. It's definitely tougher with the AFC right now. We have 9 seconds here.
AJ Brown, maybe, but that's a lofty ADP.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do it. I don't love it, but I wanted to make sure we got a play in there.
Yeah. I got it. That's Eric saying the Chargers are only a 35% chance. Yeah, I don't have any faith. I don't have any faith in them, getting out of the first round, let alone making it.
The thing about the AJ Brown, or the one that sucks, is in a lot of situations we would have been able to get Derrick Henry a little bit later. I still think with a build like a sharp idea, and this is all the different levels to this, is I think you could still build a Titans team that has, Donta Foreman as your last pick, and basically just playing like, what if Henry is never able to come back or come back at full health, and the Titans still manage a little bit of a run. So I think there's all kinds of different ways that you can play these.
Yeah. I think I just need to dive in more, but I'm trying to hold out as long as possible. And it seems like the fill rate's not high enough, but I think that's where, your mileage may vary for people out there, where there's definitely some equity in jumping in now and then hoping you get a dumb, I don't want to say this room is dumb, but people making choices on teams that might not even make the playoffs.
Yeah. All right. So let's look at a few things here. I think we can sit on quarterback for now, or, one option would be, so one play that I kind of like, if we're thinking of an NFC team without the bye, we could do like a Debo George Kittle double tap here.
Yeah, I'm
just going to put Debo for now. But to me, that's probably one of the more high ceiling plays, and it helps us get out of the wild card round.
Yeah, the thing for me is because we did go so heavy on Niners last time out that I feel like I would have gone different this time. But I think based on the draft value, I agree that that's a logical move.
Yeah, let's do that. So now we're concentrated on Green Bay, San Francisco. Our AFC stuff is a little more wonky. As far as if we're going to do like a 4-3-3 build, or if we want to do like a 4-2-2 build.
Also,
go ahead.
CEH, the reason you're not taking him is the shoulder concerns, the shoulder/collarbone concerns.
Yeah. And I also I'm trying to, in general, and I talked about this with John, and it kind of crystallized for me, where you kind of either want a bell cow back or the back on the team you're playing to get to the Super Bowl. And so with CEH, we don't have access to Mahomes. There's uncertainty about his health. We're probably not making a big bet on the Chiefs in this build. So that one just wasn't quite as exciting to me. But
Okay.
we're going to have to think through our quarterback strategy. I do think obviously Tannehill makes sense here. We could also work on if we want to play the Bengals. So they're now up to a 79% chance. We could do like a Burrow Higgins type.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind
here.
Burrow. I think he's got the feel of a guy who could have a hot hand down the stretch and can also single-handedly decide the games, which I think would have some value for me in a best ball.
Yeah. Let's give that a crack here.
Okay.
And I'm just checking the rest of this. So the only other kind of issue with the Burrow Higgins is just knowing then who else. I think we probably try to toss Boyd into this as a third pass catcher for the Bengals.
I think that's perfectly fair. I mean, like you're getting a 66% chance, I feel like, to get that Burrow ceiling with Higgins and Boyd. And it'd be nice to get Jamar Chase, but I think we couldn't get there with the price tag.
Yeah, Jamar Chase went just a few picks before us here. And the team who did snipe us on, who took the Henry early, also loading up on the Packers and then now pivoting to a backdoor Charger stack as well. So like just talking through, so we have 3 more picks. We do, like right now we're playing for basically a Cincinnati Green Bay Super Bowl, but we need to beef up. Actually, yeah, we could actually, it might actually make sense for us to play this scenario as a San Francisco Cincinnati Super Bowl, because I think it's going to be easier for us to add San Francisco options we like more than Green Bay options, honestly.
I think that'd be a very fun Super Bowl. I think the league would jump off of a bridge if that was the result of all of this.
That's the thing about these, is that you do really have to separate yourself from what you actually think is going to happen. And you're like, what if the random, improbable thing does happen? Can I take advantage of it with this lineup? So when I'm sitting here looking at this and I see Elijah Mitchell, he seems like a really nice add to our San Francisco core.
Yeah, and Eric's saying that the Niners apparently have a 69% chance. Obviously, it's going to be different depending on the playoff win probabilities you're looking on out there. But he says he's got them to miss the playoffs. I like the Niners a lot. That game this week felt like it was more important than it just kind of got lost in the holiday shuffle. But like they are running bad at the wrong time.
Yeah. I'm trying to see what other options here. I don't like doing 2 quarterback teams in general. I'm going to do Eli Mitchell here because there's another couple people have already taken Mixon and Chase. I think we should lock up Tyler Boyd here, because then the Bengals, there's basically no one intriguing after Boyd.
Yeah, maybe a last round Uzoma. He has shown some propensity for a ceiling.
So now we have a Cincinnati double stack here, and we have 2 Green Bay, 3 San Francisco. So I like our stuff here. I think we could probably try that kind of play that we were mentioning with like a Donta Foreman, or go to another 49ers and play for a 49ers Bengals Super Bowl.
I think
I think Ayuk would be a nice pick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could see the logic there. And West Coast Gem asking a question that I think I would have to you. How many players of different teams would you draft in these best balls? Like 4 max, or is there not a hard number?
To me, 4 would be the max. Like if I did a 4-2-2-2, say you load up on 4, Packers, and then you go like 3 teams of 2 from the AFC, just being like a Packers Super Bowl against any of these combos. But I don't think I would want to do more than 4 if your goal is to get first. I think there are viable strategies if your goal is just to emerge from the wild card round. I don't think it's the best use of your capital and kind of ROI to play it basically as like a double up, where you'd basically have no first place win equity because you wouldn't be concentrated on Super Bowl matchups, but you could probably build some monster teams to get out of the wild card round. But yeah, if you're trying to win first, I think you want to have, at least 6 guys going in the Super Bowl. So you can have, that starting lineup plus a little wiggle room to hit the nuts.
And so you're saying for the 4-2-2-2 stacks, the 4 would be the team you think is going to win the Super Bowl, ideally?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't even necessarily have to be win, but just make it to the Super Bowl, right? Like you have to get your 4 to the Super Bowl, because otherwise if they're all from just that one conference, then you would be empty there. Where's our team we just drafted?
And then also like conference splits, like the 4-2-2-2, would you want only one of the teams, the 2s, to be an AFC team or like an opposite conference team?
I think in a perfect world, I like playing it as, one team dominant on one conference, and then you're kind of picking, a lot of high upside sets of 2 from the other. I think that would be my preferred. This one, we ended up having a little bit weird of a draft in that we did do the one-off AJ Brown, but I also don't think that's bad. Maybe it's not quite perfectly optimal, but there's scenarios where, you get a 30-point game, even in a loss from AJ Brown, that helps you advance out of the first round. And then you're concentrated around your Cincy, San Francisco, Green Bay. So this isn't my like perfect construction, but I think the team is still built to be successful with a Cincy San Francisco Super Bowl match.
And I know you posted Eric's chat real fast, but is 2 running backs enough, especially with no Jones week 1? Do you have any thoughts that you want to give to him on that?
Yeah. I mean, again, like it's kind of the same thing with full season long best ball drafts. It's like, or season long drafts, you're drafting as if you are right. Every pick you made, it's like, okay, I hit the home run. So in this one, we drafted as if Elijah Mitchell comes back this week, takes over the 49ers backfield, and is back to being a bell cow. So in that scenario, when they're playing, wild card weekend, Elijah Mitchell is going to ball out for us and be all we need to kind of advance from that first round. And then we clearly need, the reason this is nice is because we then can basically get San Francisco or Green Bay to the Super Bowl to pair with Cincy. We absolutely have to get Cincy because that's our only quarterback. But if we get San Francisco, we're fine because we have, 4 players. And if we get Green Bay, we have our running back as well. The Green Bay one would be a lot thinner, but we would still be able to trot out Burrow, Aaron Jones, Adams, Higgins, and Boyd as a Super Bowl pairing.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah. So I think it's interesting. And then tell people in the stream with Buying Fours again tomorrow, because I think if you're watching this one and hanging out with us and it seems like the numbers are going up, it's probably worth watching that stream, getting a better idea on the 30-mile view of strategy.
Yeah. I think we're going to schedule it. It'll be either 2:30 or 3 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time. I'll try to post it on Twitter and the Discord. But yeah, keep an eye out for that. We're also going to be doing some giveaways. Bime4 did a thing on Twitter for people who donated to animal shelters. You get entered to win some giveaways. We're going to give some stuff away from my store. And he also is tossing in an entry into the Big Mitten, which is a $250 entry on Underdog, and some other gauntlet and mitten entries. So yeah, it'll be a fun time tomorrow.
Yeah, Buying for one of the good ones out there for these kind of takes. Not so much so for Josh Reynolds based takes, but that's neither here nor there. There's a callback to anybody who's hung with us for the last month or so. But Pete, what are your final plugs here? Of course, people should be following you at Peter Overzet. They should be following me at Chris Spags, and they should be following at Splash Play Pod and giving them 5 stars, giving us 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts if you can. Help us out a bunch, especially heading into a new year. Pete, anything else you want to say here or plug?
No, I'll be back tonight around 7:40 Eastern time to do a showdown cram, and we will see how much Ian Book we can get into our lives.
Ian Book, hopefully he comes through today for all of us out there, and we'll be back on Thursday doing our special New Year's special. We'll be having some drinks, having a good time. How many drinks we'll find out on Thursday, but tune in 2:30 Eastern time to come see then. Much better than 11:30 Pacific time would have been for me, where I just hammered out of my fucking board on the day before New Year's Eve. But we appreciate you guys being here, and of course we'll see you guys then. So enjoy. Good luck.